when it comes to peak gaming, 2025 didn't stop for a second from delivering it. I'm talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, haven't played it. The first Berserker Kazan, haven't played that one either. Split Fiction, I haven't played it yet. Assassin's Creed Shadows, nah, I'm just kidding, but somehow I managed to play that one. And let's not forget about the masterpiece that came out of nowhere, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now this is a game I am grateful for playing. It blew me away from start to finish. Check out my previous video if you want to hear me talk about it more in depth. It definitely secured my vote for Game of the Year. However, this entire time I kept hearing whispers and rumors about another title hidden amongst all these great games that might be a bigger surprise than Clair Obscur and a strong contender for the throne. The name that was being whispered into my ear was Blueprints, a roguelike puzzle game. Now, if this combination of genres brings out your skeptical side, don't worry, you are not alone. At first, hearing roguelike intrigued me because that might be one of my favorite types of video games. Getting to learn the mechanics of the game by failing time and time again only to see yourself become stronger and smarter with each attempt is pure magic for a guy like me, as I get to become a better version of myself in real time. That's what I love the most about roguelikes. It is probably the most replayable genre inside the sphere of single-player games, because you know damn well I rarely step foot outside of it. The last time I played Fortnite was when I was part of its target demographic. I still dabble in pain and misery from time to time, popularly known as League of Legends, but let's not go there today. I'm getting way off track. Going back to Blueprints, this game lost all my interest when it added the puzzle aspect to the mix. Look, I have to be honest for a second. I consider myself smart enough to tie my shoes, but too dumb to have intelligent conversations about the political and economical state of the world. I suffer from what I like to call ape brain. I literally function like a Neanderthal most of the time. That also translates into my gaming obsession. If your game has a crowded UI that covers half the screen, you lost me. If there is unskippable dialogue, I will probably fall asleep. If I have to press 10 buttons at the same time to perform a combo, I will most definitely rage quit. That being the case, it's safe to assume that I don't have a healthy relationship with puzzle games. There is nothing more humbling than getting stuck every 5 to 10 minutes and having to Google your way out of a situation. I am not particularly fond of puzzle games because they always remind me of my lacking intellectual capabilities, and I like to live comfortably in my ignorance bubble. That being said, sometimes I get bored of hitting the same rock with a stick, so I try to venture outside of my comfort zone and see the world beyond my bubble. I average around one puzzle game per year, so you know this is a rare occasion for me. And so it happens that my curiosity was tested by today's topic of discussion, Blueprints. But let me be clear, I didn't want to play Blueprints because it was a puzzle game. Hell, I didn't even want to play it because it was a roguelike. I barely have time for Hades 2 and I still need to put more hours into it. No, what got me interested in Blueprints is the fact that I saw someone, I unfortunately don't remember their name, compare it to Outer Wilds. When I heard that, I literally stopped the review and immediately downloaded the game, because if there is even a small resemblance of Outer Wilds in any piece of media, I will drop everything and head into that direction to see for myself. Outer Wilds is not even a game, it is an out-of-body experience. I am constantly chasing that high ever since I finished it. So does Blueprints resemble Outer Wilds in any shape or form? Bro, no, or barely, I guess. The only aspects that are familiar are the mysterious nature of the narrative and the cryptic ways of progression. And also everything resets at a certain point. Okay, so there are a few things, but I would never compare these two games personally. I didn't question my existence in this universe after finishing Blueprints, unlike with Outer Wilds. So let's ask a better question. Is this game any good? And does it match the Game of the Year hype that surrounded the discourse around it? Well, yeah, if you like these types of games, but it's a no for me, fam. No, as it doesn't surpass Expedition 33, but it's a nice game, don't get me wrong. I will split this video into two segments that will focus on what I loved about the game and what I hated about it. See how I didn't mention like or dislike? It's because the highs are up there and the lows, they drag the whole experience down. There is no in between with Blueprints. You will either adore this game for its concept or you will get frustrated and give up before you reach the credits. I somehow managed to fit into both categories. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, let me emphasize this again. I am not the brightest pebble and I am not a puzzle enthusiast, so have that subjective perspective in mind when you analyze my criticism. Feel free to comment your take on the entire game, as I value social interaction the most on this channel, and also feel free to like and subscribe to show support and help this community grow. I appreciate you for being here. Without further ado, let's start with the positives. Oh yeah, and no spoilers obviously, that would ruin the entire game. Also, if you're of legal age, you can turn this video into a drinking game with your buddies and take a shot every time I say room. It will definitely put you in your head, as Romanian people would say. So the best part of Blueprints and its actual selling point is the presentation I mentioned earlier. This is truly a roguelike puzzle game, as it emphasizes both aspects really well and almost equally. I say almost because the roguelike part overpowers the puzzle one on various occasions, but I will talk more about that in the negative section. The presentation carries the introduction and your first impression, as it pulls you in through the uniqueness of it all. Let's add some context. This is basically a Knives Out scenario, but instead of a murder mystery, we get a mansion that constantly changes its layout, and your goal is to find the 46th secret room of the house. The entire gameplay loop revolves around your ability to draft different rooms, creating a unique layout each day. When you click on a door, you are presented with the option of choosing one of 3 different rooms. These rooms might lead you further into the mansion, or they might be dead ends, so you have to carefully consider which room goes where in order to maximize your chances of success. These rooms will also provide you with the resources to help you progress further into the house, from essential consumables such as gems, which are used to draft more unique rooms, and keys that you will need to open up doors, as the further north you go on the map, doors are more likely to be locked, to special tools such as shovels and metal detectors, which will significantly improve your attempt. One important aspect that I wish I figured out earlier, but I have an ape brain, remember, is the fact that rooms are unique and they cannot be repeated, so you might want to hold onto your hallways and other rooms with multiple entrances for later down the road. You also get a finite number of steps that are consumed every time you enter a room, and when you run out of steps, or when all doors lead to a dead end, your run is over and every attempt will be different from the previous one, as you will create a completely new layout. That's basically the entire roguelike aspect of the game, and it holds up pretty well during the later stages of the game as well, as your flow will be much faster and strategizing your way to victory still feels fresh. So the gameplay loop holds up. Sprinkle some puzzles all throughout this entire process, and that's how Blueprints stands out in this oversaturated genre. Personally, I will never think there are too many roguelikes, please never stop making them. When it comes to the puzzle aspect, I cannot say too much because obvious reasons, but they are well thought out and they get progressively harder, as my ape brain didn't struggle at first, but I was really slumped by the end. The puzzles are well embedded into the roguelike system as well, because an answer to a riddle might be in a completely separate room that you haven't drafted this run, so you have to start a new day to use this newly found information in order to progress. So you constantly jump back and forth as you want to draft the best possible room to advance in the house, but you also want to draft another room that can help you with the puzzle in a completely different room, so you switch priorities all the time, and that's how the game gets you hooked, by putting your brain to work in a satisfying and also unique gameplay loop. Too bad it's not all about skill and intelligence. Let's get into the nasty stuff. The only quarrel I have with the game lies at the foundation of every roguelike. However, unlike most titles in this genre, Blueprints uses this aspect to hinder your progress instead of pushing you towards it. I'm talking about RNG. Okay, leave your comments stating that I don't know what I'm talking about, but hear me out for a second. Me and also other disappointed people on Steam, because I'm not the first one to have this take. It's a general issue that will infuriate one demographic and completely ignore the other. The RNG in Blueprints is ruthless and it actively works against you. Now, I'm not talking about the 3 choices you're given when drafting each room. I know it is very annoying to find yourself deep into the mansion and you get offered nothing but dead ends, which completely kills your run. It's unfortunate, but that can always be mediated by better planning out your route. No, I'm talking about not being able to progress because the game doesn't want you to progress.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence.
Let's say you were on your A game and played perfectly. You had an amazing run, utilizing every room to the fullest by stacking up on keys and gems. Well, now you're faced with the antechamber, and in order to progress towards finding the 46th room, you need to access it. This is not a spoiler, it is permanently visible on your map. It is literally your driving force since the start of the game, as it is the furthest room north. Anyway, in order to access the antechamber, you need special rooms and special items. Well, if the game doesn't give those to you, you're fucked. You will find yourself full of keys and gems and no way to progress because the mansion wasn't feeling it that day. Hell, sometimes you will find yourself with no keys or gems because the mansion feels very greedy and keeps everything to itself. But your argument will be, well, KIPH, if you can progress towards the main goal, you can look around and solve extra puzzles. I hear you, and that's a valid argument, and you will do that at the beginning until you run out of very easy puzzles that require simple solutions and you run into the heavy stuff. The beginning of Blueprints is splendid because you are constantly led by curiosity, and the sense of wonder really takes over as you explore more and more of the house. Well, the middle part of the game is absolutely excruciating because there is literal no progress made. You want to do a specific puzzle in one particular room? Good luck, kiddo, because if you don't connect that room to another rare room, you cannot complete the puzzle. Better restart. You need to combine 3 specific items for another puzzle? Well, you found 2 of them and the game didn't help you out with the third. The cherry on top is that you have to lose at least 1 item because they don't carry over to the next day, and you better hope that you find all of them in a singular run. And I'm not talking about items that can be found in specific rooms so you can mediate this by strategizing better. I'm talking about RNG items that can spawn literally anywhere or nowhere in the house. You know how in Hades you collect stuff during your run, and even if you die prematurely, you can use said stuff to upgrade your character, helping you become better because the game actually wants that for you to evolve? That's what makes a good roguelike. Blueprints, on the other hand, gives you a hallway with 3 doors and looks you like Megamind. No keys? And it's not like you can work on multiple puzzles at the same time because in the middle section towards the end, the solutions are extremely costly in terms of resources and you cannot sacrifice your focus and attention on multiple things at once. You will get stuck hitting the restart button over and over again, wasting 10 attempts and making literally no progress during this entire time. That doesn't sound like fun. I want to feel like I'm getting better, not getting worse, because in that case, why am I wasting my time with this game if it makes me feel like a moron? The pacing takes you completely out of the experience because it drags so much. Why would I be motivated to push further if I don't get the incentive that I'm supposed to win? Why am I playing this stupid game that makes fun of me because I'm bad at math and also colorblind? For real, this puzzle will humble your basic arithmetic skills and it literally punishes you for being colorblind. That's racist. Now you probably have figured out why I named the video like that, because Blueprints quite literally broke me. I lost my patience a bunch of times, and by the end I resorted to googling hints that can help me put an end to the suffering I was in. I don't consider that cheating because I didn't look up the step-by-step process, and in the context of my mood, that was the better choice because, as Reggie said,
if it's not fun, why bother?
That being said, to the contrary belief, I don't hate Blueprints, nor do I think it is a bad game. The presentation by itself makes it the most unique roguelike I have ever played, if you don't count description, and that alone gives it a lot of points in my book. What I will say is that the more you unlock, the funner the game gets, because towards the end I was starting to get even more comfortable with the roguelike aspect, but at the same time I was completely disinterested in solving the remaining puzzles. But again, that's a me thing. I am not wired that way. And that's how I can sum up my overall perception of the game. It is not for me. It can be fun and it does have a lot of substance, but if you don't find yourself in the target demographic, you would also probably consider the game more infuriating than captivating. What I hope to be the next Outer Wilds turned out to be a series of rage quits packed neatly to resemble Game of the Year material. And it might actually be that for some people, but definitely not for me. And that's okay, because if a game tries to appeal to as many people as it can, it turns out really spread thin with no substance left to make an impact. At the end of the day, I want to hear about your experience with the game. Which side resonates with you more? The puzzler or the rage quitter? I should have said the Riddler, not the puzzler. It was funnier. I don't know. Or do you find yourself somewhere in the middle like myself? Blueprints was definitely an interesting experience, and I hope we get more similar games in the future that will learn from the mistakes of its predecessor and evolve, adapting the roguelike aspect to the developer's real life. Until then, I want to personally thank you for sticking with me. Your presence has been priceless. Take care.